Welcome to the White Knuckling It podcast with Justin Burt
No, we got out of the life of the pre-roll.
and Mitchell O'Brien.
It was in his butt.
They share their experiences from white knuckling sobriety to becoming successful and living life in recovery.
Yeah, boy.
Welcome back to the White Knuckling It podcast. I'm Justin Burt.
I'm Mitchell O'Brien.
What's up, dude?
I don't know. It's kind of a good day.
It has been. We actually had a really good conversation before we even started this podcast with a bunch of different things.
About chicks.
Yeah. And healthy relationships.
And
what those should look like.
is that what we talked about?
Well, a little bit. In a roundabout way. Because we're talking about how in ancient times the Nephilim came down, being fallen angels, were fallen gods, lowercase gods, not uppercase at all. So it meant they were below God.
People are going to be hearing this and being like, what are they talking about? We haven't talked about this on the podcast.
I know,
before.
but anyways, we're talking about how they came down and deceived people. You know, and we have to watch out for that, especially in early recovery, being deceived by somebody that we think's good for us, but in reality, they're not.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Because I said in that storyline, what it talks about, and it talks about it in scripture and then other ancient mythologies and stuff like that, is that there's always this, the gods that come into the story always paint the picture that make them look good.
Right.
But there's a lot of, if you look at a lot of media and stuff about like ancient Greek mythology, they talk about how that's not the case and how they're more corrupt and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned, it's just like talking to any manipulative person or toxic person.
Yeah.
They're always going to paint the picture that they're the good guy, even though a lot of times they're the problem. Say it the easy way, they're the problem.
Right. And we've both experienced that. Yeah. I experienced that last year when we kind of first opened here, When we first met, I was just getting married. And then shortly afterwards, it fell apart. She came in here trashing me to you and the boss. Mm-hmm. And you guys are like, this don't even line up. Like, what?
Yeah.
Are you talking about? And that goes with that whole deception thing. Was I just someone for her to use and abuse, for a year?
Yeah.
For her to sort out like a midlife crisis, and that shit really happens.
And I kind of did the whole, you see it in memes on Facebook and Instagram. The universe teaches you lessons until you learn it.
Yeah.
Cycles through the same thing. You're going to get the same experiences until you learn your lesson. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what happened with me. Like I went through this over and over and over again with, and I wasn't always perfect. I was, alcoholic and drinking too much. And so I've ruined my fair share of relationships.
For sure.
I've had so many that it was really toxic. There was a lot of lying. There was a lot of cheating. And just all this deception. And it just always amazed me. And, I have family members that are this way too, to this day. And they will always do everything they can to make you feel bad about the situation and paint themselves in the best picture you can.
Yep.
It's very immature.
Yep.
It's very negative. And it's not taking responsibility or accountability for yourself.
True that.
Yeah.
I had that conversation with my mom last night because I moved out of my mom's house when I was like 17. Mm-hmm. I moved in with my grandma. My mom was pretty resistant to that at first, but she was moving downstate. I was going into my senior year of high school, and I didn't want to change schools because when you go from a Class D to like a Class B school, your credits change.
Yeah.
On what you need to graduate. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not jeopardizing graduating high school. And so I moved in with my grandma, and my mom had bought extra lots when she bought my great aunt's property, which was right next door to my grandma.
Yeah.
So it went my grandma's, my mom's, and then across the road, she bought the first 2 lots on that side of the road.
Okay.
One was already cleared off. My brother was pretty lazy. So she was like, well, you can have the one with all the trees still left on it, which was a corner lot. Sweet. You know, you get a corner lot. Don't really have to worry about much, right? And I think I just graduated high school, and I was looking at remember when the mini homes first became not like a big craze, but they were just starting out, right?
Yeah.
And the Amish were building the sheds that kind of looked like mini homes.
Yeah.
They just started building those, if I remember right.
Okay.
And so it'd been like 05,
Yeah.
06.
We live in Traverse City, Michigan. Apple Fence Company has like a whole bunch of them suckers out there.
Yeah, everyone has them now. You know,
Yeah.
They call them like she's sheds, where like kids' playhouses in their backyard.
Yeah.
Whatever, you know. And I was gonna put one of those on my property, and so that way I wasn't inside my grandma's home no more. But like if I needed to go shower or something, I was like, well, I'm just right across the road, Grandma. Like I'll come in and shower. You know, we'll get some power ran over there, and so at least there's power.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll worry about water later. Like you're right across the street. Like what do I really need? You know?
Yeah.
And she told me no, and it really hurt me. It really pissed me off, because it was that control factor. You know. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to my mom about it last night, and she goes, "Justin, what do you want me to say?" She goes, "You were rebelling against me, and what was I supposed to do?" Yeah, it was yours. I was like, so why didn't you just put it in my name? And she brought up the fact, I think when she went to go put it in my name, I wasn't 18 yet.
Oh.
So she put my grandmother's name on it. And my grandma wouldn't allow me to do anything with it. It really rebelled me. That's when, shortly after that, I moved out, went and lived with a buddy of mine, realized how quick you can lose your ass.
Yeah.
I didn't plan on my job laying me off, closing down for the winter. It was an oil change in Baldwin.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, I'm closing down this winter. You've never closed down in the wintertime. Well, you guys will get unemployment. What? Really? And unemployment wasn't really much of anything. And it really drove me to do other things.
Yeah.
That's when I really started learning how to hustle.
Addiction. You're talking
Yeah.
about addiction.
Addiction. You know, I was drinking all the time. I was getting stoned. But that's why I really learned what hustling was about having stash spots, you know, all the things that come with the hustling territory.
Yeah.
You know, and I ended up really losing my ass. Our power got shut off. We ran out of propane. You name it, dude, it happened. Like, I was very stupid at like 18, 19 years old.
Oh, I think we all are. I think we're meant to be. Like, our brain's not even close to being finished yet. So
Yeah.
we think we have this adult body all of a sudden. We think that we know everything.
Oh, dude, I lost my ass. I ran up credit card. I had like 1 or 2 credit cards, maxed them bitches out. Mm-hmm. And it was just nuts, dude. And I ended up, if I remember right, me and my mom were kind of talking, but we never really got along at that period in my life. And so I called up my biological father,
Yeah.
explained to him what happened. He said, I'll be up there tomorrow to pick you up with all your stuff.
Huh.
And he came up, picked me up, took me down to his house. He knew I was getting unemployment, so at least I could contribute somewhat.
Yeah.
And I ran the unemployment scheme for a while, you know, just kind of moved down there, got the feel of things. And it didn't take long before I found this person, that person, you know. And at first he kind of told me, don't go to your uncle's house. the one that lived, my uncle Don, that lived right in town. I loved the man to death. He was a good man, you know, but he struggled with addiction. And my dad already seen what I was living my life like, you know, and he's like, please just don't go over there. And then at first there was no curfew until I started hanging out with my Uncle Don. He was like, oh, you think it's cool to come home at 11:30 midnight? There's other kids in this house that have to be up for school, and you're just stumbling in like, blah, 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 blah. No big deal, all fucked up. He goes, now, from now on at 10 o'clock, my house is locked.
Yeah.
I'm like, so do I get a key? What part of don't you understand at 10 o'clock, my house is locked?
Yeah.
I was like, fuck. And it really spiraled me out of control. I mean, somewhat, but not really.
You get like this rebellion at that age too. Like I was at my parents' house and their thing was be home by 11, and if you're not going to be home, let us know.
Yeah.
And that is not a bad rule. Like that's pretty easy to deal with. But I'm 18 years old, 17, 18 years old. I don't want to do that. Like I was in my rebellion phase, so I got real good at opening doors with credit cards or IDs. Yep. And then I also got really good at knowing which floorboards creaked.
I bet.
And then I had to talk with my mom about, when did you come in last night? You know, and it was like, oh, you know, well, I didn't even remember what I would say. And that was the funny part is that was that started before I ever started drinking. I was just out with friends at first. There wasn't any substances involved.
Okay.
But it was enough of my parents going, you know, this is the rules. And for some reason, my brain went, okay, we have to break these. Like, this is what we have to do.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. We all struggle with that, you know, all the way through growing up, some of us, you know, and that's where, you know, we went and did a tour of a sober living house here in Traverse City. I wouldn't say it's a transitional house, tea house, anything like that. This is a sober living house.
Yeah.
Straight to the point, sober living. They don't do treatment. You're in there. You're sober. You will work a program, a 12-step program.
What's the biggest difference between transitional housing and sober living? The way I see it, I'll let you answer because you've been to one, and I haven't. So
I've only ever been to sober living homes. I've never been into a transitional house. To me, I'm gonna say a transitional house, tea house, would be where they still offer intensive outpatient.
Okay.
Like there's a few around here. Like we have one here. We'd have one up in Petoskey. You know, where you get out of residential treatment and you go into the next programming, right?
Yeah.
Which would be, okay, you just did 45 days here, 90, whatever. Well, now you're going to go out, live in a house where you have free roam, but you're still going to do programming.
Well, and there's like curfews and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then you've got the program would be the intensive outpatient.
Yep.
So basically, it's fair to say transitional housing is connected to a treatment program
Yep.
or organization, treatment program or organization, and is meant to be. This is how I see it. This is my perception. Is meant to be shorter term than sober living. Sober living can be shorter term, but it is allowed longer term because what you're really doing is trying to just set yourself up for
Success.
success and being a member of society.
And by intensive outpatient, we mean, for those that don't know what intensive outpatient is, it would still be the same classes like you'd have in residential, but you're in the free world. Some do it over Zoom. Some places have you come in to their facility where they do the classes at, and then they typically offer you therapy.
Yeah, and it's like it's really kind of like going to what you would in your treatment program.
Yep.
Just you're now in a home, so you do, like I said, you have a curfew. There are You have to. There's a chores list, and everybody gets their. And, they're really trying to teach people how to have a structure. But during the day, you can freely leave.
Yep.
And you can have a job in transitional housing, and it's encouraged. And going to outside meetings and stuff like that, which can happen while you're in inpatient treatment. But you get to choose when you're in transitional housing. Usually you have to do a certain amount of meetings, but you get to choose which ones they are and where you go, and you have more control over your life. And then sober living is almost like another step beyond that.
Yep.
I look at it as there's a system that's being formed or has been formed in the recovery organization world, and there's treatment, and then there's outpatient treatment, because not everybody does it the same way. But there's treatment, and then there's like inpatient treatment, or I should start over. There's detox facilities for people who are, need medical detox to not hurt themselves, to come off of things. Then there's inpatient treatment facilities, and there's different durations when it comes to that. After that, there's transitional housing, which we just kind of discussed the difference between that. And then after that, there's sober living. You don't necessarily have to do every single one of those steps, but it is really a step of intensity of programming.
Yeah, and to go back to almost freedom, because like I did residential treatment. Actually, I was in jail, got out, did 6 weeks at residential treatment, went to a sober living house where it was required of me to have a sponsor, work the steps. It was really encouraged to have a therapist, because the first year or two of sobriety is really a roller coaster. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. It depends on how you navigate yourself, how you're going to deal with those. Because we know as people in recovery, it doesn't take a bad day to relapse.
Yeah.
It really don't. You could have an extremely great day and feel like, I earned this today. I've been doing so good. I can have just one. One.
It'll make me feel better.
Yeah.
You know? Or, I feel good. This will enhance it.
Yeah. All I need is just one. And then we know deep down inside one's never enough. Mm-hmm. But as soon as we hit that point of, I just need one, and it touches our lips, we're gone.
Yeah.
And so like he really encourages therapy, because even though you're having a good day and you're on this good day plateau, and some people call it the pink cloud when you first enter recovery.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, life's so great, life's so great, life's so great. Well, life hasn't kicked you in the balls yet.
And it's going to.
It will going to, because something in your past is going to catch up with you that you're still not wanting to deal with yet. Mm-hmm. And it's a known fact. It will. It happens to me all the effing time.
And you don't know how to deal with it yet, because you're in early recovery. You haven't taken the steps to jump out of the white knuckling it stage. All you've done so far is gotten into a program, started it, put yourself around in that environment with other people, and you haven't really dug into like the therapy part of it. You haven't dug into why were you even using to begin with. Mm-hmm.
And you start to hit on that a little bit, depending on what treatment center you go to. You'll start to hit on that a little bit, but you're going to leave and be like, now my brain's really fucked. Because now I'm out. I don't know what to do. Good places will set you up with aftercare.
Yeah.
There's some places that don't do nothing. Here you go. You're on your own. Here's a resource packet.
That's why I was so thankful that the outpatient program that I went through was long term. Like, I was in there for somewhere between a year and a half and 2 years. And it was almost, I was in like the lowest stages of the program for 1 month shy of 2 years. I still had a peer recovery coach through there, and, I still saw my therapist and stuff like that. I wasn't on the Vivitrol anymore, and wasn't on the medical side of the medication assisted treatment part. And my, therapy sessions had, spaced out where I was only doing them, once a month and stuff like that. But I'd gotten to that point to where I didn't need those check-ins as much. and we had worked through some heavy stuff. But, you know, at 6 weeks, man, this was just the fixing of my brain was just starting.
Yeah.
That was, you know, I don't even know if because I talk about in groups a lot, you know, I removed the alcohol from the equation, and my depression hit me like a ton of bricks. And it did that a couple times. It came in waves, and whenever it wasn't the depression, it was the anxiety. And I think I was only at the first, you know, hit of anxiety by then. I was dealing with the depression and suicidal ideation for a year and a half,
Right.
at least, maybe more. So
I remember when I first started seeing my daughter again. It would have been December 2021. And when I first got her back, I remember calling my boss at the time and telling her how I felt, because I wasn't for sure, because it's been so long, you know, my life has changed so drastically compared to what she used to know me as. And that's the only time where I ever felt just a hair bit of anxiety.
yeah,
And I reached out and talked to someone about it because I didn't know how to deal with it.
yeah,
Because just of the fact of being in recovery now, she's always known Dad smoked pot, maybe Dad have a bottle in the freezer, and Dad's been away for like 2.5 years. And
Yep.
Dad's done a complete 180. You know, you're gonna come to Dad's house, there's gonna be no alcohol. Dad ain't trying to smoke down, chief down anymore, you know, and it's like I didn't know how to really cope with that, and I wanted to make sure she was gonna be all right.
yeah. It's cool too when your kid sees that you've made that change and they realize that it's permanent.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my son said something to me one time, and he goes, I can't remember his actual words, but it's like, well, at least you're not that way anymore. And it wasn't just at least you're, because, you know, I dealt with family and my, you know, people close to me. And when I got sober this time, it was just the next time that I tried to them. You know,
Right.
It's, you know, it had been temporary every time before that. So that's what they saw. They needed to see measurable, tangible change before they could realize that this was different. And for my son, you know, people, I've talked about it in the podcast before, but if you haven't heard, you know, he's a teenager now, and he, you know, he was at an age where he knew what was going on while I was still in addiction and active addiction. And so for him to say, well, you're not that way anymore, and not hear the words, you just don't do that anymore, you know, like that meant something to me. And it could have been something as easy as, you know, he just could have slipped up and said the more meaningful words. But when he said, you're not that way anymore, like not being something anymore, that's change. That's actual change.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, people see this in me.
Yeah, and especially kids are brutally honest.
Oh, yeah.
They don't care what they say to someone. They're just brutally honest. And they are. And it's just mind-blowing when, especially a kid comes up to you and be like, I'm proud of you. You've really changed. You have this new outlook. And in your case, you've always had your son.
Yeah.
Where me, my daughter's always wanted to live with me, but I'd have sense of good time and I'd fuck it up.
Yeah.
I'd have sense of good time, fuck it up. And after I got in recovery, she really wanted to come live with me, and I thought it was going to be a possibility at one point in time. Mm-hmm. Especially after I was with someone for like a year, everything seemed to be going great. And then, boom, the shoe drops, and my daughter's like, she told me that summer, she was like, you know, it's going to be okay, Dad. You're going to get through it. Everything's going to be good. And then last night, she told me, you know, I remember holding you while you were crying, and I'm glad you didn't go back out, because today would have never been possible.
Yeah.
And yesterday, I officially got my daughter full-time.
Yeah, full custody.
Well, 50-50 still, but
Right.
I'm the actual custodial parent now, is how they label it. And so, but she goes, today would have never been possible, Dad. And it's really nice being here.
Well, and to give people a better picture of it now, when you did get her back in the past, you got visitation rights basically.
Yeah.
Where, you got her on the weekends and she could come stay with you sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You flip flopped it. Now she's living with you, which is a
Yep.
big deal for you, and it's been awesome. We're all proud of you. But she's living with you now, and now it's like mom has the and we don't want to talk bad about anybody, but it's better for everyone. It's
Yeah.
great for you to have your daughter, but it's a better situation for her. And none of it would have been possible without the effort that you've put in, sticking with it, the self-awareness it takes to go through the life changes and the emotional changes and stuff like that. Like, it adds up, and then all of a sudden you have this life where you look at it and you don't necessarily feel the changes really becoming a concrete thing. And then one moment you kind of have a moment of self-awareness and you're like, holy shit, I like my life right now.
Right.
I had that awareness at certain points where I was like, this isn't as bad as it used to be.
Yeah.
And then I got to a point where I was like, this is good. This is good, because for a while, there's still tough stuff in your life. You got stuff from your past that's creeping in on you that you have to still take care of. There's still sober people problems that you got to deal with that at first you're not going to know how to, and it's going to throw the risk of relapse in your face if you don't know how to and have the coping skills to deal with that stuff.
Yep.
But eventually it goes from your life's not as bad as it used to be, and all of a sudden, hey, my life is good now. Like, I can actually say that. I can say that I like my life the way that it is now. And for somebody like me that dealt with the depression and anxiety as hardcore as I did,
Mm-hmm.
there was a point in my life I didn't think it was possible to feel that way.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm not even having to choose that to feel that way. Like, a lot of times, people would say joy is a choice, and you have to choose to be joyful in tough situations. I have an extrinsic. See, I'm trying to use big words. Extrinsic joy in my life, and it's where I just naturally feel that way. I don't have to force myself to choose to be a positive person, because just the things that are happening in my life make me happy.
Right.
And I love that.
Yep.
It's great. Recovery gave me that. I like to say that in my blogs. When I talk about the change and how it's good now, recovery gave me that.
Even when I was still using, there'd be times I'd get super pissed off about certain things, but most of the time, people would tell me something that I probably should get upset about, and I would just laugh at it. I'm like, I'm not letting that negativity bother me today.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, what do you mean? And then they'd get mad at me because I'm laughing about something. I'm like, what? Because I'm not going to let something bad ruin my day?
Yeah.
And it was really, I wasn't going to let something bad fuck up my high.
Yeah. Well, and like for me, I did something similar, but it was like I didn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I cared about getting the next bottle,
Yep.
and making sure that my kid was alive. That sounds terrible, but that's what it was. I wanted to make sure that he had what he needed and he was surviving, and then I got my fix. And that was it. I didn't care about anything else. Somebody would bring something to me. Sometimes it would make me mad if it really affected me, but there was more times than not where I'm just like, okay, well, does this mean I can't drink today? No?
Right.
Oh, okay. Fuck it. Like, who cares?
Right. and one thing that kind of bothered me at first was when I first entered recovery, I had to learn how to give up all the old friends and create new ones. And with that, comes a lot of turmoil from these old friends that are saying just shit, right? And we have to learn that other people's opinion of us, that's their opinion, and it doesn't affect how we live our life. And if we're worried about every time someone has an opinion about us, we're going to be fucked forever.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple, you will be fucked if you care that much about what other people think. Worry about your own backyard, your own side of the street. Keep it clean and just keep doing it, because the haters are going to hate.
Burn that bridge. Like,
Yeah.
People say you don't want to burn your bridges, but there are some bridges out there that need to be burned. There really are.
Yeah.
And what you just described, it's like, we say if you hang out in a barbershop long enough, you get your hair cut.
Yep.
You need to find a new barbershop. If your life is falling apart, you're hanging out in the wrong barbershop. Like
Right.
there's other ones. You can find it.
Yeah, I should just maybe go into a meeting somewhere, like the wonderful place we work at.
Yeah.
217 Recovery. Come here. It's a recovery community organization in Traverse City, Michigan. Great place. We enjoy having fun in recovery. If you don't walk out of here laughing, I don't know how to help you because someone in here will make you laugh. And if you're really having that bad of a day, just open up and talk to us about it, because I'm here to tell you we've all been through it.
And this isn't just like I work there, so I have to say this thing.
No.
Because I know that some people are going to think that when I say this, but the people who hang out here long term, like keep coming back, they do good shit in their lives.
Yeah, and
Like
they continue to do good shit.
We got a lady that finally she got her apartment. That's been a really big goal. She got a car at one point.
Mm-hmm.
She's been coming here for a long time.
Yeah, she would ask us for rides to go pick up her old car. I'm like, I ain't wasting a whole day to go do that dumb shit. How about you just give it to one of your family members and you just work a little hard and save up some money and just buy one?
The point is that she's doing really good.
Yeah.
And she's around here a lot, and she found a new barbershop, and she got the new haircut. That's the metaphor for it. We got another guy who runs a meeting here during the week, and he's doing really good.
Yeah, I'll even give him a shout out. Gary, shout out to you, brother.
Gary was my next one. I was talking about.
I watch you get out of jail, enter drug court, do everything they threw at you. You were kind of homeless. It's really your story, so I'm not going to say too much of it. But I've watched you go through every process of recovery and rebuilding your life, and I just want to say I'm so proud of you, man.
If you want to look at a how to structure doing what you need to do to get out of a life of hardship and addiction, he's a good model.
Oh,
for
yeah.
that,
For sure.
And he's a cool guy.
Yeah, real down to earth. You wouldn't tell he's an old dude from Detroit that would just spout off at the mouth to anyone, because that's not the same guy anymore.
No, he's got that flavor, but it's fun. He does it in a fun way, and I like it. I wasn't gonna call him out like you did, but that was my third. He was gonna be my my third thing. So, but like the people who keep coming back here, they get success. They get stuff done. They get good stuff going on in their life, and it's so cool to see. And we talk about people, places, and things, and I'm seeing that there's the good side of people, places, and things, and there's a bad side of people, places, and things, and we're part of an organization that gets to be the good side. We're the good people in a good place that do the good things, and then when people actually engage with what we're up to, good stuff happens to them.
Yep.
The analogy plays out, and it's awesome.
And if you can't make it here, all of our meetings are hybrid, which means they're on Zoom and in person.
Almost all, but still.
I mean, there's a few of them, like our art group, music group. Those ain't really on Zoom. Those have to be in person. But the actual open discussion recovery meetings, all of them are on Zoom.
And you can go to 217recovery.com/meetings.
Right.
Or just go to 217recovery.com and you can click the meetings tab. And I think it's in the app too. You can go to the app store, 217 Recovery app. It's super easy to get on the Zoom. If you're on the website or the app, you just click the button and it pulls you right in. The schedule's on there. You can read our awesome blogs that we write about the stuff we got going on in our lives. Sometimes we talk about shit that happens. Sometimes we talk about fun that we're having. Sometimes we talk about things that we realize in our own personal journeys. And it's over 900, almost 1,000 episodes of the 217 Recovery podcast.
Yeah,
too.
and that's what made us start doing our own, was just the fact we wanted to have something of our own and be able to voice our experience and wisdom to people to help them out even more.
The further we get into our recovery journeys, the more I talked to some people at one of the organizations in town yesterday. And I was like, I know what it was like to be in your shoes. And the last thing I wanted to hear was anybody tell me what I have to do.
Yep.
I was like, but I pushed myself to the absolute brink of losing my life and everything that I had. And I was on the verge of losing the very last two things, my son and my life. And it was like, that's what it took me to finally drop that shit and start listening to people. I want you guys to know these are things that I did that have worked. These are things that my closest people that I now have around me have done that have worked. And you don't have to put yourself through the suffering that I did. You know, you don't have to. You can make this decision now. Then I was like, that's why I share my story. It's because I can give you the opportunity. You know, I was like, because you'll hear me say stuff a lot of times, like, you have to do this and you need to do that. And I was like, I try not to say that stuff. It's easy in our language to say that because I know what it's like. That's a trigger. It's been a trigger for me my whole life. As soon as somebody tells me I need to do something, no thanks.
Yep.
You know, so.
But that's a great way to end the podcast, Mitch.
It really is. And
so I hope everyone really enjoyed this episode.
Go to whiteknucklinet.com.
Yeah, for past episodes. And website will be updated hopefully within the next week or two.
Hell yeah.
Later.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the White Knuckling It podcast. For more details on the show and for more episodes, log on to whiteknucklingit.com.